Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another session of the Pursuit Power Half Hour. I'm Brent. Today, we're talking with two CFOs in the professional services industry about their evolving role, shaping financial strategy, while also driving operational clarity and cross-functional alignment. They're going to share how they've tackled challenges like rapid growth, complex delivery models, and tightening margins, and the practical steps they took to better connect finance with delivery. Steve, Dave, welcome. I'm ready for this conversation. And before we dive in, maybe just give us and our listeners a little snippet about yourself, your role, and your firm. I'll throw it to you, Dave, first.
Hey, Brent. Chief Financial Officer at IA. I've been with IA for about 5 years. We are a software and robotic automation platform serving pharmacy. About 25 years in finance, have implemented 6 different PSA systems, and look forward to today's conversation. So thank you.
Excellent. And Steve, how about you?
Thanks, Brent. Yeah, my name is Steve DeSantis. I've been CFO for 25 years for 9 different technology companies. And I've been at Dynatron now for about 5 months and have implemented 5 PSA solutions as well over that time.
Awesome. Appreciate it. And so let's dive in. And there's a lot of business talk, and certainly I think for our listenership, acknowledgement that the role of the CFO has evolved and changed. For personally, when you think about your role as CFO today, how has it evolved at this stage in your career, in the past few years even, beyond traditional financial strategy? What does driving operations clarity look like in practice? And Dave, I know you had some thoughts about this, so maybe we could start with you.
I think a lot about how a PSA can affect a business, almost like a pilot of an airplane. So the view that I take of this is really a co-pilot for operations. And what essentially I look for is those tools, systems, and processes that we can bring to the organization to bring that clarity and that operational excellence.
And Steve, how have you seen your role change in the past few years as you've navigated different firms and different stages of growth?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've actually seen that investors in particular are expecting different things from CFOs these days. They really expect a CFO to really understand the financial strategy of the overall strategic strategy of the company, and tie that to people, processes, and systems, and what we're doing to execute across an organization. The CFO today really can't just sit in and, as you said earlier, just count and report on things. They're really expected to be involved strategically across the organization. And so typically what I do is to get very close to each organization, each leader, understand their kind of key strategic objectives, how they tie to the strategic objectives of the company, and then implement a strategy around people, processes, and systems to achieve that.
Sounds very multidimensional, lots of operations in there, balancing cash flow, certainly capital structure. And along those lines, you've both had to navigate firms undergoing rapid growth, whether that's sort of organic, hit a nice ICP and taking on lots of new clients and in acquisition, some with an outside investment. Most of these have very complex delivery models, and all of this under sort of the pressure we've all been under the past several years of kind of like tightening margin due to costs and so forth. So, Dave, of those, or maybe some that aren't mentioned, which of these challenges hit you hardest first? Perhaps reference your current role or maybe one past, and how did you approach it?
Yeah, so what you just laid out is pretty much the story of IA. So we've grown by over 300% on the top line in the last 4 years. And so what hit us first and foremost is when I came in, we had disparate systems, complement of essentially different spreadsheets, different ways for managing projects, a lot of manual processes. I think Steve touched on it really well. It's about making sure that from a strategic perspective, what we do at IA is incredibly complex. It is software, it is hardware. We've got 550 people that are out there operating on our various projects across essentially 30 different cost centers. So bringing control to that chaos and getting everybody aligned on a really clear picture and vision for where we're headed is not only a key strategic focus, but it brings that operational excellence forward, because we have to link up as we manufacture things, as we bring in components of our large automated solutions from third-party vendors. We've got to link up the right resources with effectively those parts and those solution components at the right time in the right place. So what I had seen, not only to improve the financial performance of the business, but really to bring forward that operational excellence as the first key. And then our second unlock here, Brent, was really with customers and making sure that their experience when they're going through a 30,000 hour implementation is to bring forward the right resources at the right time with the right system. So it's a complement of all those pieces. And when you do that well at the core operating level, the financial results improve. And we've been able to experience that here.
With disparate systems and other factors, whether that's rapid growth on the top down, maybe not the margin and EBITDA we want kind of on the back end. Steve, to you, forecasting, bringing confidence to the investors, the investment decisions, the roadmap depends on data you can trust, rigor, accuracy in forecasting, hitting that forecast with some confidence. As a CFO, have you been approached in either your current role, perhaps past roles, on owning a tech stack that helps ensure rigor in data, financial data, that drives the forecast and makes it reliable, actionable, insight-led to the board?
So I think it's one of the reasons why I typically own business solutions, BI, and data analytics teams as well. Mm-hmm. And so great example is for the past 3 years, I've been CFO at Sabota that provided a technology platform to pharmaceutical and biotech companies that were conducting clinical trials. And the complexity of those clinical trials was significant. When I first got to Sabota 3 years ago, they were tracking most of their services hours in Excel, and they felt that they had a pretty good handle on margins. We implemented Kantata, and but first back up for 1 second. We had very little visibility into a 700-person services organization that were spending 600 to 1,200 hours on an implementation. Very complex implementation. The board gave a very clear mandate to get an understanding of how we can improve margin and efficiency across our services organization. And I went right to Kantata to do an implementation. We integrated that with our CRM. We integrated that with our ERP solution. And then we integrated it with a BI and data analytics platform to be able to have complete visibility, real-time data on a project level, on an individual staffing level, and to be able to drill in. What it enabled us to do, Brett, was to be able to identify areas to improve margin and efficiency. But we are also coupled with trying to do it both from a product standpoint as well. Where can we minimize the services work from a product standpoint? So we're trying to productize as much as possible. But by implementing Kantata in the overall solution I just mentioned, we were able to improve margin across the board. But we were able to specifically identify what was coming from services improvements and efficiency, and what was coming from product improvements and efficiency, and it dramatically improved our overall margin from low 20s to nearly to the high 30s, and in some cases 40%. So it was a significant impact on the company's overall margin. And in actuality, the company was just acquired by two large private equity firms, and our investors said that they believe that these changes in that visibility and margin improvement contributed as much as $200 million of value to the ultimate transaction. So it was a really nice, I think, benefit to be able to get that sort of visibility and insight into the business.
Yeah, and enterprise value is certainly the name of the game with driving this top line growth to an eventual exit or different capital event. So for Dave, Steve's mentioned sort of the how and the why and the what I'd like to ask you in your experience, the what, data, insight, signals, metrics. What are the key areas you look at? If you've got an executive CFO dashboard or some kind of insights that are being surfaced, what do you use to steer the ship weekly, bi-weekly, and then beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. So project engagement dashboard is a place I go daily. We have about 192 projects going on each and every month that rotate through. Some are large and long, some are really quick hit, a couple of hours. And so getting a flavor for the projects that we've got and then how we have to match up. We use a sales and operations planning process here to make sure we get the right resources there with the right parts. And that all includes essentially production capacity as well, being able to manufacture and or ship. So that dashboard, the engagement dashboard, is the first place I start. Then it's down to revenue, looking at essentially backlog burn and how that is converting. And then it's down to working on resource efficiency. So operating margins and improvements, continuous improvements in those areas is a place that not only we focus on as a management team, but that my investors care a lot about as well. So being able to go ahead and work on that resource pool in ways with our team where I don't have to manage it, but rather they can manage it, understanding utilization and realization of projects is where we'll focus on our dashboards.
You both, it sounds like you're in some extremely dynamic roles at present. So maybe either an example from these or looking back, the visibility of data and insight where maybe you didn't have to parse through multiple spreadsheets, tons of regression analysis, but where good tooling or systems elevated an insight to you that helped you pivot, maybe through a period of change. And it might have been maybe a change in an investment partner, maybe a change in the market, potentially a downturn, potentially an upturn, and where the data and your reliance on that helped you navigate through that change. Steve, I know in your role you come into firms at various stages of growth and really help pilot through and up and on into change. Maybe we'll start with you if you think of a specific example, and you don't have to name the company. Maybe you can talk in abstractions, but whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Sure. I mean, I think a great example. I was with a company over the last few years that tripled in size over a 2.5-year period, and what we really needed to get our arms wrapped around was as we were looking at data, what information is going to help us really move the needle for us as a company? What are the things that we need to focus in on? And what are the things that are going to really kind of drive the difference for us? I think the couple things that I could point out here is that when we were looking at, Dave mentioned utilization as well. We wanted to look at billable and non-billable utilization because we were in the process of bringing 2 new products to market. And we wanted to be able to see, when looking at these new products that were coming in, how much non-billable utilization or time that we were spending on customers that we were unable to bill them for, because we wanted to get insights into what issues were we having within the product itself, not just from a gross margin standpoint. So our ability to be able to look at utilization in those facets and be able to drill into what's happening with the product and what areas do we need to improve, so that we can drive overall margin efficiencies, but satisfy our customers' needs at the end of the day, and making sure that we're delivering a high quality product that is achieving the goals and objectives that we set. Does that make sense?
No, it does, definitely. And it sounds like it was the symptom of unrecoverable time was leading you to maybe a diagnosis that there were some issues in the product that you were taking a look at and being able to vector in on that. How about you, Dave? Insights that really helped you pivot or not pivot and stay agile in your decision making?
Yeah, for us, it was 5 years ago when we rolled in. It used to be about a contract and delivery. But to Steve's point, really, it's about connecting the operations with the strategy, that people, process, tech stack. When we walked in, because of all the disparate systems, we were trying to piece a lot of things together. What we were able to do was actually unite the entire organization around just three key metrics: product profitability, project profitability, and then post-sale warranty and support profitability. Two of those three, both the project profitability and the post-sale warranty and support profitability, where we're deploying resources and trying to line up both the system components and or parts with our resources, was an area and an example of where we could bring real focus. So as soon as we were able to get all of this into one system, so we've connected Kantata with our manufacturing system. We've connected Kantata with our expense management system. We have one clear view of where that project is on a percentage of completion basis. And then we're doing a much better job of making sure that when essentially that large machine comes off the plant floor, it is visible to our project managers and the resources that are working on that project. And we can get everybody lined up to support effectively that project profitability initiative and or the post-sale warranty and support profitability initiative.
So really tying, in your case, manufacturing and output and throughput of physical devices back to your service metrics and tuning that whole process all the way through. A lot of this sounds really operational, and I'd be curious to hear, how closely you work with if you've got a partner or a peer in a chief operating officer type of role or office, or if there's like a PMO or some other type of operation organization that's pairing with each of you. I'd like to maybe just touch on that, and then because I want to talk a little bit about operations next, and I'd be curious. Maybe Steve, do you have a chief operating officer? Do you partner with that person? How does that organization work in your current role?
Well, I kind of assume the role of chief operating officer as well, although we do have a president that I partner with. At the end of the day, we do have a PMO office with a team that I partner with to manage projects across the organization, and we work collaboratively with them to dial in operational efficiency across the company as well.
Dave, how about you in your company's current stage of growth?
Yeah, we've got about 427 resources that we deploy for various projects. So the folks I work with certainly got a chief operating officer, but we then break it down by segments. So we've got leaders over the three main segments. Those are my business partners. And then that satisfies the project profitability side of the equation. On the post-sale warranty and support, we're then working with our customer support leadership, and that's another silo that we go ahead and partner with. We bring business systems together with that chief operating officer and those leaders to go ahead and bring all of the resources together because it is a shared resource.
It's interesting hearing you talk, and I was speaking with a client last week, or a potential client, and they were talking about the sequence of growth and who they brought in, but they noted, it was very important for them to have a flexible CFO with an operational lens, because they felt once they built to a certain level of scale, then they could bring in a COO. But until that time, the chief financial officer really assumed those types of duties. So it sounds like that's a parallel track for both of you. So you're managing these dashboards, you're managing cash flow. There's an enterprise value target, all the things we and our listeners would really be familiar with in running a services business. What tripwires or potential landmines have alerted you recently, maybe due to current economic conditions, which are good but maybe bumpy, sort of everyone, I feel like the market's kind of trying to find its footing. Where are we going to go next? Both with capital, the price of capital, um, um, deal flow, and so forth. But something maybe recently that caused you to stop in your tracks and say, we've really got to vector run on this. Something is going awry, and we have to dig deeper into that insight. Steve, you're nodding, so it sounds like this is maybe relevant, kind of prescient.
Yeah, no, it's definitely very relevant. Timing is perfect on that question. For us, as a software as a service company that provides a significant component of our business in the area of services, that kind of augment or complement our software. One of the key measures of success is customer retention. And when customer retention is suffering, meaning customers are not continuing to renew contracts or they're canceling contracts, it puts a tremendous strain on the organization because now you're having to replace that lost customer revenue with new customer revenue, and it becomes a significant issue. For us today, in today's day and age, some of our customers are dealing with the impact of tariffs on the business.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And at the end of the day, they look toward areas or costs that they can eliminate that maybe are creating some uncertainty. The uncertainty in their business is forcing them to reduce expenses anywhere they can.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, we've had to really dial into that retention metric and say why is retention going down and what can we do about it. And so there's a lot of steps that go in behind that, but at the end of the day, making sure that our customers are getting value out of our products and services, and that we're proving a strong value proposition for the return on the investment in what we're providing to them.
And Dave, you're in a different industry, but how about you? Maybe recently or near recently, economic conditions, a metric flashing a warning signal that causes you to really take a deeper look.
Yeah, I'm crossing essentially the chasm of our three buckets of product, project, and post-sale warranty and support profitability. So as a business in today's environment, we're facing tariffs and we're seeing costs increase for effectively our hardware and the products that we wind up servicing. Our investors aren't very tolerant of lower margins. So what we have to do is go after those other two buckets of essentially the profitability of our projects and our post-sale warranty and support. So the things that we wind up looking for is we could see the decline in margins in the product, some of which we couldn't just pass on to our customers given contracts, but we had to make it up elsewhere. And so our ability to go ahead and dive in and put our hands onto levers that we can literally pull around projects to make them more efficient, to move more quickly, and to deliver higher operating margins was really where our focus was, part one. Part two, and I think it dovetails into Steve's point, retention is everything, but what we are also focused on is really SLAs. The products slowing down into effectively the U.S. markets, and we're a reseller of some things that do come from overseas. We had to work diligently to stay on track with SLAs for our customers as well. The systems that we deliver are mission critical because they take essentially a critical path in effectively filling prescriptions. Some of them mail order, some of them direct to pharmacy. So that SLA component was something that we could also measure and influence through a combination of S&OP and lining up product and resources.
Both of your answers, we involve tariffs, right? And in our industry in particular, there's a high proportion because we're in a B2B SaaS platform for services. So a lot of our firms are consulting. They're selling kind of fungible time and output and consulting and strategy, maybe delivery. So maybe not as impacted, but it really speaks to kind of the breadth of services that large firms that are acquiring, manufacturing, shipping actual physical product. That's part of the equation, and having that full view of the economic landscape for your company makes it critical, because then you can kind of pull down the levers and see where you can reallocate. The Along those lines, you've both come into firms that are in sometimes nascent stage of growth, sometimes they're kind of a mid stage of growth, and are scaling or are going to scale. What give us an example again? You could speak to your current role or past experience in an abstraction that a process or technology simply didn't work anymore, whether that was maybe by the provider. Maybe they forced you in a decision. You had to deprecate a system. Maybe it was you just reached a point and said, this no longer works. We're going to, I think, Dave, to your point, you brought a lot of disparate systems together. Whatever the case might be, maybe a nice tangible example in that journey of evolution.
As we've scaled each one of the businesses that I've been through, you reach a point where solutions are no longer able to take the company to the next level. So kind of the breaking point for me seems to be like the 50, 75, $100 million level where we kind of hit these levels and you've outgrown QuickBooks as an example, and now you need to move to NetSuite, or you've outgrown some other CRM solution. Now you need to move to Salesforce, or you've outgrown Bamboo HR and other HR systems, and now you need to move to one of the larger systems that are capable of scaling companies beyond 100 million. And a lot of times they'll happen all at the same time. And so for me, we're literally in the middle of implementing a new ERP, a CRM, a new PSA, and we're in the process of how do we capture data from all the solutions across the company, from that we need in order to report on that and have data and insights at our fingertips. And I think that the overall thing that didn't work in the past for companies that are now at the stage we're at now is trying to do analytics off of those solutions individually. Instead, now we're creating a data lake. We're pulling all the information into a single source from all those solutions across the company, and then we're building analytics on top of that data lake so that we can have those things at our fingertips. I think that's the key for me, is that having an active involvement in that, so that those things are focused, the data and the insights we're getting are focused at the strategic level that really move the needle for the company, and not just providing tons of data that distract people from the things that really make the difference.
No, that's outstanding answer. And those thresholds of the 50 million, the needs of a $50 million company to a $100 million company, because it gets into things like regulatory compliance, revenue recognition, GAAP compliant, all the types of things that are required. And when your systems are strained, it can be a challenge. Dave, how about you? Something that you had to really stop doing or reinvest or kind of do a wholesale rework of?
Yeah, it's a real thing here where we're at IA. We came in, and I think, to Steve's point on the data lake and bringing all this disparate data together, it's more important today than ever with artificial intelligence. And being able to step back, that combination of a business strategy and how you're going to execute it with operational excellence, and having a vision for bringing those systems together. I've got an excellent business systems team, but starting with master data management and understanding essentially how you're going to bring it all together. And it may be best of breed systems. That may be one ubiquitous system that can reach across most of your enterprise. But at the end of the day, what we felt here is we had to replace the front end CRM. We had to make massive improvements to the back end CRM. Kantata fit really nicely in the middle and actually replaced about 3 different systems that we're using, combination of Excel, spreadsheets, etc. And what we were able to do is actually simplify the orchestration of not only the customer lifecycle, but then what we do at IA in terms of our IA lifecycle, everything from innovate and develop on through to sell and market, through to installation and post-sale warranty and support, 3 profit drivers. And then we linked that into our systems, all with the concept of master data management. So when we pull together the sales and operations planning process, we can only do that because of the data. We can only do that because we've had a strong focus on improving our systems and then bringing that discipline back to the team, because there's a lot of change management involved in that process, helping them to navigate that journey, because it's not easy, but being able to come out of it on the other side and being able to step back, because fundamentally they're the ones that run it every single day, and being able to get our leaders to lead and help us to focus on the strategy and that longer term result. That's kind of how we've walked that walk. And it's nice to see the team be able to talk that talk today.
As we wrap up our session here, you're both seasoned, and by that I mean this is not your first venture or your first role as a CFO. You both have rich experience and the benefit of that experience to maybe pass on to others. Advice. Everyone sort of closes these types of sessions with, advice to a peer or colleague, or maybe someone who's in a formative stage at the CFO level. But specifically, I'm sure you could talk very long and with extremely useful, practical information just about the role of CFO. But specifically in this idea of a CFO owning and optimizing the tech stack for their firm. Going back to a little bit, in a $25 million company, $50 million company, many times that CFO hire also serves as COO as you scale. What advice would you give to other CFOs about either the importance to own, optimize, maybe select, manage the enterprise technology stack of your firm? And we left off with Dave on the last one. So Steve, I'd kick that over to you. Or maybe you think the question's fallacious and it doesn't really matter. I don't know, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
When I think about the tech stack and owning it, it really comes back to people, processes, and systems throughout the organization, and tying that back to strategy. And I think that my recommendation for CFOs are to make sure that as you're looking at building out a technology stack that's appropriate for the size of the organization that you're running, don't just solve today's business problem. Be thinking about the business problem that especially if for rapidly growing companies. We're growing at 30% today. And if I'm just trying to solve the problem today, in a year from now, we're going to be 30% larger, 2 years from now, even larger. And we're not going to necessarily solve the problems down the road if we just look at today's issues. I think that sometimes it's easy to get focused in on the problem today, but also is we're thinking about, we're not just responsible for providing a return on investment for the current investors looking for the 3 to 5x return. We're responsible for building an enduring company that can provide a 3 to 5x return for current investors, but also for the next round of investors that are going to invest in the business and acquire it. And so if we everything we're doing around owning and optimizing a tech stack should make sure that we're able to not only meet the needs today, but the needs in the future, all in the context of supporting the growth and strategic objectives, both for the current investor group and for the one that's going to take over in the next round. That doesn't mean you overinvest. It just means you appropriately invest and stage those things with the insights that you need for what you're trying to achieve over the next several years. And one last thing I want to add into this, and Dave mentioned it earlier, leveraging AI to reduce manual processes and to leverage technology in a powerful way. If you're not thinking about that as a CFO today, you're going to be behind. You're putting your company and everything you're doing strategically behind. So making sure that every area in the company where you can leverage AI in a meaningful way to do things more efficiently should be part of your overall strategy as well.
Oh, outstanding. A great segue. Dave, how about you? Again, advice to colleagues in the CFO space, other peers around ownership of the firm tech stack.
Steve touched on some of the very important pieces about building for scale and building for the long term and bringing artificial intelligence. The only thing I could add to that is really around helping our employees, when they think about tech stack, to understand that our customer is at the center of the universe, and that one of our greatest points of differentiation is the quality and the speed with which we deliver. So when they then start to think about the tech stack, it's about bringing the maximum amount of efficiency and effectiveness to the customer. And whether that be in how we engineer product, how we sell and market product, how we deliver that product, how we service that product, what I want my team to understand is have a full appreciation for what that tech stack can enable, and not get caught up in a patchwork of systems. Be willing to change, be willing to lead that change management, and really think about it with the customer and our long-term differentiation strategy as at the forefront. When we do that well, revenue and margins go in the right directions, and then they satisfy effectively our investors. So getting them to own it at that level is really important to me.
No, that's outstanding. So it was great talking to both you and Steve. Always good to see you again, and happy we got to reconnect. Dave, great to meet you and hear some of your insights, particularly some of the complexity you're dealing with and how you're tying in kind of manufacturing and services. So thank you both for coming, sharing your insights. And for our guests, thanks for joining us today. We hope you're leaving with practical takeaways that really provide some guidance and insight as you drive and apply to your own role. For everyone, if you're interested to see how Kantata can enhance real-time decision-making and boost your operational efficiency with increased transparency, accurate and timely financial reporting, and optimized cash flow, it's a lot to unpack there, but stick around. Our solution engineer is going to jump on next and we'll walk you through a short demonstration of the platform. But for both you fellas, thanks for joining and look forward to connecting again.
Hi everyone, I'm Vicky, a solution engineer here at Kantata. At Kantata, we believe the future of professional services isn't just about automating tasks, it's about unlocking performance. That means moving beyond static reports and manual processes to real-time AI-optimized insights that empower leaders to drive better outcomes, respond to change faster, and lead with confidence. Today, I'll walk you through the key features of Kantata SX that give C-suite leaders the visibility and control they need to run smarter, more efficient, and more profitable operations. I've just received notification that we're short on revenue for September with 1 day of the month remaining. I need to take a closer look at September. Drilling down further, I can clearly see that I am $187,000 remaining to my target with 1 day remaining of September. I need to make the team aware, so I'm going to subscribe Ian and Caroline to this report so that they can be on top of this at all times. Back to my homepage, I am also notified via Kantata's metrics finding me that my forecast for the month is not only accurate, but also that I can be confident in it for both closed won and probable engagements for this month and beyond. Additionally, overall, my revenue with 4 months remaining is also close to my goal of $10 million. Taking a closer look into this, I can see that it's also rather importantly 37% up on the same period last year. A quick breakdown shows me that my account, the BBC, is severely overperforming at 166%. But what about at the business unit level? Drilling down again further, I can see that my UK business unit and my European business unit are overperforming respectively at 92% and 172%. But taking a closer look at the US business unit, I can see that this is actually down 26%. More importantly, it's also plateauing out further along in this month. And if I drill down once again to the account level, I can see this is mostly attributed to my Star Energy account. And further, this drop in revenues is also really attributed to one project in particular. And I need to do something about that. So I'm going to add followers to this AI-generated reporting insights dashboard. And I'm going to ask my operations team and my BI team to keep a very close eye on this. And Kantata will do this with delivering these metrics to them. These teams, these individuals do not have to come into Kantata necessarily to be aware of this. Back to my dashboard, I note that my real-time revenue for September is right on track at $560,000 and way better than my revenues last month in August, which was slow due to vacations. Right now, though, I'd like to focus my attentions more on my strategic accounts portfolio. Here with Kantata's metrics of tomorrow, I can clearly see some issues before they even arise with our insights notification. This is a large portfolio, so today I'd like to concentrate on my engagements needing a little more nurturing. Let's take a closer look at just my red accounts and the details on those red accounts. The good news here is that currently there are only 4, and I've just dealt with one of those. So I think I'll focus more on my amber metrics. So those accounts, those projects that are performing okay at the moment, but may need additional help further in the future. And as I move down the page, looking at the detail and all the revenues, costs, etc., my eye is drawn down to my services implementation project. And I need to take a better look at this services implementation project, looking at the metrics on this already. So I'll drill down to the more detailed level. And initially I can see, again, those insights finding me across the top of my page. But my eye is also drawn to my client pulse and client team scores. This is giving me a pulse on how my client rates this project, how my client feels about this project, and how my internal delivery team feel about this project. So right off the back here, I can see both client and team appear to be very happy. This is my project sentiment, a pulse check of how we are performing and how the client thinks we're performing. Drilling into this for more information and more details, this actually now tells me we are delivering this fantastically well. We have a client score, the external team, the client score are very happy, and the team pulse, the internal team, are also very happy. And over time, I can see how these metrics have changed. Whilst I'm here, I also want Kantata's delivery agent to automatically get me a project status report so I can track, without having to go into the menus on the left-hand side, how the project is performing. And whilst the delivery agent is collating all of that information, you'll notice this is really easy to do. I haven't had to click in lots of different places. The report is already being generated. And once this is finished with the executive summary, the usages, the actuals, the baseline, the forecast hours, along with the risks, the RAID log, all of this has been automatically generated. Once this is completed, I'll also ask the agent to tell me who is working on this project as well. The issues here are just coming through. I've got my next steps on the project. So the last thing I'm going to do is ask the agent who is working on this project. Again, I'm getting this information without having to click anywhere else within the solution. Let's go back to my dashboard and take a look at the forecast revenue for the rest of the year. I'm going to focus mainly in October, and I want to specifically look at my probable revenue, the revenue on projects that still hasn't closed yet and still is in the sales cycle. So I'm really concentrating in my Star Energy account for those projects that are almost about to close. You can see there are a number of those, but the one that I'm most interested in is my services implementation. It has lots of revenues that may make a difference to my month next month. It has lots of revenues that may make a difference to this month. Here I can see I've already closed and recognized $10,000 this month. But what I'm really interested in is what is the forecast for my revenues throughout the rest of the period of the project. This project is a very complex project. It is part T&M, part retainer, and part fixed price. So ideally, as an executive, I would want to slice and dice those revenues by each element in the project. And with Kantata, it's very simple to do that. Right now, I'm looking at my revenues on a month-by-month basis across the whole of the project. This is showing me how much I've already recognized as at today and what I'm forecast to make along the rest of the project. You'll notice that the forecast is different from my baseline. That's because an additional revenue was added as a change control after the initial project closed. I can also do the same metrics for a margin and for cost. But right now, I want to slice this revenue a little bit differently. I want to just look at my first element of this project. And here I can see this is my 10,000 revenue that we've already recognized. So this is what I would expect to see. And as things change on this project in real time, this chart, this analysis, and the insight will update in real time. And so as an executive C-suite level, I have complete clarity, control, and confidence at all levels with full optimization of services. Thanks again for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this session and we look forward to seeing you again soon.